pure source creator, whatever that is, you want to put names or no names to it. With the name and without the name, there's a moving energy of, a deep source connection that, once we transcend the supposedly, it will settle in eventually. And what I mean by what will settle in eventually is, I guess, our comparison to this, whatever this ocean of everything is, how do we really, really, really compare our soul? Because what we hear as far as the other rhetorics, hopefully we receive it productively and constructively and use it productively and constructively. But aside from just hearing other people's truths, insights, wisdom, tidbits, and whatnot, it's to be co-inhabited with, like, all of these truths, all of this, rhetoric, and, sifting through the real and the constructivality of a piece of rhetoric, and, more or less recognizing and transmuting, and with assistance, even more so transforming that which is, just false, anything that's false, asking, like, whatever pure source creator God is for you, whatever that really is for you. I can't judge anybody, because there's a dual aspect to ourselves, this this deep unmovable spirit, and then these external outside human characters of ourselves that receives the impact more so of the external realm, but there's a part of us inside that doesn't. So this is a spiritual mechanic, inner factors of how, like, even though we get attached and clingy to whatever that may be, it still is, like, it's fleeting, but it's not fleeting at the same time, based on, the different expressions and formulations of what materialization even is. Materialization of, like, there's different types of materialization with the elements. The human body is not the concrete, the human body is not the steel, the human body is not the AI gas cloud or whatever AI could possibly be. But what is, like, AI has different components and contexts, is because one context and component of AI is the psychological train of thought. And within that train of thought, it's not the supreme original thinking, which is something else. So the point of this video is to ask, however you connect with Creator, asking, every moment, every circumstance, transform my victimhood. Every moment, every circumstance, transform my doubt, etc., etc. But more so victimhood, and how that's in its own, human reality basis of how the human being is impacted emotionally, and as other things are moving through our open, receptive, empathic fields, and within, and how that is within all of our own body. The other side of that is, like, the parts of us that are, like, dually defined. And what do I mean by dually defined? Dually defined means, something that already is taking space, organic physiological code, and how more so it's concentrated within different fields of how you were a product from your original environment, and how what you were, and how it's being taken account of, in how the soul is being taken in account of your human vessel. So we're taking into account like, what we aren't and what we are, and how we're sifting through the discrepancies of the nuanced paradox of duality. Meaning, the discrepancies of the nuanced duality of the paradox means, the detrimental chaos of just, like, random, like, stuff. We're not necessarily that. That's a transformation of us, because we're not our own poop. But are we our own poop? Like, more or less, to some context, we are our own. The poop is of us. So it's like, it's kind of like a comical, it's not comical. I try to be as balanced and clear and natural and neutral as much as I can with all things, but it's kind of like a different, like, metaphor for, Vedanta, and how they use the metaphor, like, the clay pot is the clay, but the clay pot itself isn't the moving fluid essence of clay, because the clay pot defined itself as something, as a parsec, parcel, microbit of what its original, infinite material really is. Because the clay pot is the clay, and the clay pot isn't the infinite clay, so it's contained. So what is it that contains and makes us establish and snap into and hyper secure what definition even is? Because what is definition? definition is based on different, conscious evolutions of different elemental energies. They all took an angle and a position in a higher sky, and they established a different higher supreme being body, and we are micro reflections of that hyper supreme being, and we forgot that we came from it. And as we forgot that we came from it, we're more or less having a possibility to go back to that in a very unique, gracious or non-gracious, or a little bit of both, everything and nothing all at once. We're going back to what we were as God, with God. So it's beyond the mind, but we could still use the mind as a tool and an ally rather than demonize it and pollute it to actually, attain the ultimate supreme goal or the ultimate supreme objective, and disabling all the detriment etymology isms within everything that's said and beyond that. So this is the higher essence of liberation being grounded and anchored down, and beyond felt, it's being constructively inner spiritually infiltrated and inner embedded and inner instilled, based on how you could actually spiritually and materially eventually within the higher balance equilibrium principles, how you could live the best life ever if you just read between the lines. So pure source creator, every moment, every circumstance, transform these detriment emotions, and recognizing and harboring and highlighting the constructive emotions and thought patterns, and spiritual assistance with whatever that is for your particular perception. Have the best life ever.